Sessions fires McCabe just hours before his federal pension kicks in. Also, Trump congratulates Putin. What's the big fallout over that? Howard Law professor Alan Dershowitz basically throws down the gauntlet, says that this investigation in Mueller's probe is fraudulent and needs to be disbarred. Also, California goes as far as it's been to this point and actually appoints an illegal alien to a state government position. That and much more today on the Truth Hour.
Something really wrong is going on.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on here today?
I want the truth.
Good morning, Truth Hour audience. Welcome each and every one of you. Thanks for being on here today. My name is Shane Jamison, and you're on the Truth Hour radio program, coming to you live here this beautiful Thursday morning here in the Berg, Pittsburgh, PA. Looks like Kelly's on. Lisa's on. Looks like I got a few people already on. Thank you for being on, guys. Thank you for carving out a portion of your Thursday morning to join me here on the Truth Hour. If you could do me a favor, share this to your page as we speak. Do that right now. Put a small passage up there for me if you don't mind. Like and share this if you don't mind. Help me grow my base. I would much appreciate it. And also, guys, if you are landing on my page for the first time, this is a political insight show. We do this once a week, every Thursday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Pittsburgh. Political relevance and insight with a fraction, a portion of that at the end for my faith. So, good morning to you, and I hope that as I am coming to you live this morning, that you and yours are well and blessed, and that everything is fine with your family. And if it's not, I would welcome you to let me know if there's any issues you need prayed for. I'd be glad to pray for you. And I would ask that you'd keep me and my family in your prayers as well. Prayer is powerful, and big advocate for prayer. So thank you very much for that. Welcome to the Truth Hour, guys. We have a very, very busy jam-packed session, as we always do every week. There is never a shortage of relevant topics to talk about, political insight, things to see and discuss here, and so we will get started. I think I actually touched base on this last Thursday. There was hints and talk within the D.C. grapevine that Andrew McCabe, the disgraced deputy director of the FBI, was set to be possibly fired literally on the eve of his pension kicking in. If you'll recap here and go back in time with me, the backstory on that was that I think because of pressure from this current and ongoing investigation into the investigation and the validity or the lack thereof from the right trying to actually disprove this, this joke of an investigation by Mueller and this special prosecutor and probe. Basically, McCabe was forced to step down back in January. He was removed, along with Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, which were some underlings that were assigned to the Hillary Clinton investigation, the email scandal, and subsequently into General Flynn. And so Mueller made McCabe step down, and this was 2-3 months ago, right? I mean, this is good 2 months ago. So, should be no there. I mean, it was simple what he did, and everything's been proven. And as you know, these reports and these investigation continues into why this was so fraudulent is starting to be uncovered. Then it becomes even more evident why this was done. So, long story short, inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, they have an internal review board, basically an ethics board that holds their own accountable. And in this instance, they got it 100% right. So long story short, what happens is tick-tock, day by day, week by week, McCabe's gotten closer to his retirement. And what basically culminated from that was this internal review board has found through internal investigations, information that they've dug up and that they've found through their own due diligence. They're not biased. They're not paid by any specific party. They are internal FBI individuals that are holding other individuals in the FBI accountable. And through this process, Andrew McCabe was found to have been less than candor, is what the term is, which in layman's terms and everyday life, in my opinion, is called lying. he was found to be guilty of that by this internal review board. Now, that's not a criminal thing yet. That's not that. This is an ethics review board. So what happened is this review board recommended to Jeff Sessions that Andrew McCabe be fired. So that's exactly what they did, and it just so happens that it came down and landed on Jeff Sessions' desk just a few hours, literally less than 24, I believe, before his pension was to kick in. So the next question is then Sessions, as the acting Attorney General, has the right to either act on that or not act on it. And I understand this. So Sessions is in a pickle here. He was, but in my opinion, he had to. Knowing the things that are coming out and these ongoing revelations that have continued to unfold, proving the validity of this pushback against the Mueller investigation and the higher echelons of the FBI, knowing all of this, Sessions had an obligation and a duty to do exactly what he did. Okay? So he decided to do that. Literally, last second in the fourth quarter, the ball's on the goal line and McCabe's about to punch it through and get his pension. Not only retire, right? He didn't get to retire. He got fired. That's a huge point I want to make too, guys. He did not get to retire on his own terms. His career did not materialize and come to fulfillment, a conclusive date of ending. Jeff Sessions fired him a mere 24 hours before that happened, and subsequently a significant portion of his retirement or his pension will be removed. Now, I think a lot of people are skewed about this, and the Dems have ran with this, and the mainstream media have just went, just crazy. That, oh my gosh, this was just shady, this was horrible. He was, unjustly and unrighteously removed from his office, fired in the mere hours before he is set to retire and receive his pension. How could this happen? Come to find out after a little bit of investigation, McCabe's no victim here. He's his net worth is north of $10 million. So regardless if he ends up with said pension or not, I think the man's going to be fine financially. I think what's more telling is that his career. It doesn't matter how much good he did, and from what I've heard is the years past, he's a 20-year career FBI agent. He came from he worked his way up the ranks. He started out as a field agent. He started out being one of the rank and file that, as of today, are what we consider the best part of the FBI. So that's where he came from. And welcome, Alicia. Looks like you're on. Thanks for being on the Truth Hour this morning. So so McCabe is no victim. McCabe is not a victim. His net worth is north of $10 million, regardless of where you put his pension and his retirement. I think the overwhelming point here is that he knows, and everybody else knows now, and once these other reports come out, it's going to be confirmed, that he is fully disgraced, and it doesn't matter if you led 19 and a half or 19 and 3/4 years worth of exemplary service to your country. If the last few months of your service was spent in the deep state of the Obama administration, basically undermining an incoming administration and having insurance policy meetings in your office to undermine this current administration while protecting the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton, I don't really care. If you spent, 19 and a half years doing that, or 18 and a half, if those last remaining months and weeks were spent doing exactly what I believe proof is coming out to say has happened, this man doesn't deserve a dime of any taxpayer money, and he deserves to be in cuffs, and he deserves to be, indicted and sentenced and put behind bars. So, the left is just holding on to everything they got. Just to basically, save face here. So make no mistake, McCabe is not a victim. Okay. He perpetrated along with, and like I've always said, I've got numerous Facebook post guys out there that, even the number two in the FBI gets his marching orders from somebody, right? James Comey being one. That was his immediate boss. Comey's been fired. Funny how then McCabe releases a statement directly after he's been fired, directly after he's been fired, basically stating that all of this is because he revealed some information that he, basically to a news outlet, which is called leaking, that he then goes on to state, this is McCabe, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting, that he basically goes on to state that was well known and allowed by his superior. So what do you think that statement means? That statement is very indicative of exactly why Comey is in hot water now. He is under oath stating that under no circumstance has he personally allowed any information to be leaked to the media as it relates to the ongoing Trump collusion, Russian collusion narrative investigation. And then Grassley also is on record. I believe it's Chuck Grassley actually asking Comey under oath. This is before he was fired. If he was given, if he had foreknowledge of allowing anyone else to do such. And on both instances, he claimed no. Basically shutting the door conclusively under oath that he didn't allow that to happen. Yet Andrew McCabe was just fired not more than a week ago for this very thing. So you can't have it both ways. So was McCabe saving face and kind of already starting to turn on his buddy, his best friend, his former boss? Or is this something that's, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, these guys they've gotten each other's back for so many years that now they can't even get their story straight. This is the underlying problem with the FBI and the DOJ, our intelligence agency as a whole, on the upper echelons. Once again, the grunts out in the field, the guys, on the beat doing their job day in and day out, the people out there on the streets doing these hard investigations to keep Americans safe. I'm not talking about them. The rank and file, the FBI, the DOJ, Department of State, State Department, all these intelligence agencies, for the most part, are doing their job. It's these higher echelon individuals that have become corrupt and have basically sold their souls to either A, make money, or 2, protect themselves. It's protectivism is what they're doing. So there is a lot to come of this. I mean, listen to the hypocrisy here. This investigation's been going on for the better part of 2 years. The GOP is fixing to. This is how bad, and the Justice Department, the DOJ, and the swamp itself, the deep state, has acted about this. Of 1.3 million documents of 1.3 million documents requested by the GOP over the course of the last 18 to 24 months, they've only been given privilege to 3,000. They've only been given privilege to see, and redacted, mind you, redacted 3,000 of 1.3 million. Now, there's something wrong with that. How can an investigation counter basically the checks and balances to hold each other accountable? How can that take place if you're not given privilege to the documents that you're rightfully given privilege to? Okay? And then there's another scenario. One of the redacted text messages. How about another angle of this? And I didn't have anything to pull up on this, but Peter Strzok is back and Lisa Page are back in the news for another very, very telling situation it's been memorialized in text. Peter Strzok in specific, was close friends apparently with the recused FISA court judge, and I don't have his name, Gutierrez or something like that, that set over the Flynn basically plea. And as soon as that went through, the judge recused himself. Well, now there's text messages between Strzok and Page that go on to basically say, and I should have screenshotted this and I didn't pull them up, but I'll paraphrase. There are text messages now that are proof that Strzok and Page were coordinating a sit down with this FISA court judge, and they were orchestrating that meeting and sit down underneath a cocktail party, underneath the umbrella and the protection of a cocktail party with a number of other guests, so that it wouldn't look suspicious and that there wouldn't be anything uncovered that would then all but guarantee that the judge had to recuse himself, of which he finally did anyways. So, I mean, add all this corruption up. So here's the thing. This very text that states all of this was redacted in previous versions. It was redacted in previous versions. So you've got the FBI official that's in charge of that was over in the investigation into Hillary Clinton, the email scandal that basically ended up in an exoneration before a true investigation ever happened. That same individual, that same agent, sat over and presided over the meetings with General Flynn where he supposedly perjured himself and lied and gave false and misleading statements to the FBI. All of that. So this guy's over all of that. All at the same time, he's buddies with the FISA court judge that ends up being impaneled to be, a part of this process. And then they're talking about having these shady meetings. Guys, this stinks to high heaven. It's the epitome of corruption. It's the epitome of the deep state in this country. And I said this a while ago, and I'm going to say this again. Guys, number 2s and number 3s and number 4s all get their marching orders from somebody up higher up on the pecking order. Okay? So if McCabe got his orders, let's just process elimination. McCabe got his pecking orders from Comey. Where do we think Comey got his pecking orders from? This isn't hard, guys. This isn't rocket science. Okay, who's up above that? You got Loretta Lynch. You got Eric Holder. And then it goes straight on up to where? Barack Hussein Obama. Guys, when this corruption train finally grinds the grease off the bearings and the wheels fall off this train because it's so corrupt, and it finally slides to a halt, it's going to stop dead center at the feet of Hillary Clinton, the DNC, Barack Obama, and the higher echelons of the Obama administration. That's exactly what's going to happen. So, some big stuff happening there. And we can transition. We're going to transition here. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. There was, unfortunately, another shooting within this past week. I'm sure you've all heard about it, in Maryland at a high school. But the outcome was severely different than some of the most recent ones in our history, much less to mention the Florida shooting where we tragically lost 17 innocent lives. But you didn't hear the mainstream media ranting and raving and showing any accolades about this, because the very thing that happened was the solution to the problem that should have solved the problem in Florida. Anybody hear about this? Blaine Gaskell pictured there on top right, getting an accommodation at some other point in his career. Blaine Gaskell, a 34-year-old resource officer, a police officer, was there assigned to the school when 17-year-old Austin Rawlings decided, for whatever reason, to roll up in the school with a gun, and because of a past relationship with a young woman that was 17, I believe, ended up targeting her, found her somewhere in a class, and shot and killed her. I think wounded possibly the other boyfriend, right? So this was a past relationship type thing. It doesn't matter. Those points are irrelevant. Why? I hate that. The mainstream media loves to get caught up on the motive. Motive's irrelevant. How about the fact that we neutralize the threat? There's the point. All right? So Blaine Gaskell, 34, school resource officer. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, we don't know how many police resource officers they had, stationed or posted at this specific school district in this specific building. If he was the only one on the whole campus, we don't know all that. But here is one fact we do know. He was either inside that building where this young woman was killed by this 17-year-old, or he ran there. Either way, he was there, he was armed, and he took action, and he neutralized the threat. 17-year-old Austin Rawlings was shot. He later died at a nearby hospital. See, and a lot of people will go, oh, well, it doesn't matter. This deranged individual came into the school, and he was just targeting this girl and this young man. You don't know that. Nobody will ever know that now. He's dead. The shooter's dead. But you know what? In this instance, you shoot first, you ask questions later. And that's exactly what happened. We had an armed security presence at a point of contact, at a point of entry, at some point there, and even if it would have been, maybe could have been even been stifled if they would have had either additional officers, or this officer maybe would have been at the point of entry, right? And there would have been some kind of, metal detector or something there. I don't know if this guy was once again recognized by the school. He's 17. I'm assuming he went to school there. So there's probably another thing. If you actually go to school there, you're a lot less likely to get scrutinized when you're coming in late, or whatever the case may be. He makes entry into the school under the radar, goes in there and commits this criminal act, and kills his once girlfriend and said boyfriend, I guess, tries to kill him, and then gets into a shootout with this school resource officer. Officer returns fire, shoots and kills him, basically. Here's the thing. Remove the police, the resource officer from the equation. Do we know how many clips this guy had? Do we know how many rounds he had with him? Do we know what else his intentions were? No, and it doesn't matter. Why? Because this individual, this resource officer was in place and neutralized the threat. The rest is history. But you don't hear the mainstream left media saying a single word about that. Speaking of other outrage, how about the bombings down in Texas? Where's all these activists and these school activists and all of these left-wing politicians? Why ain't they coming out against anything like this? Oh, no, but you just got to have a trigger on it for them to have any care about it. Here's the monster right here. And I don't have his name readily available. We don't need to even say his name. That just further martyrs them to the public. And it isn't like I've got a huge audience here, but it doesn't matter. There's the individual right there that got caught yesterday morning, sitting on the side of I-35, somewhere in the area of Austin, Texas, after they had tracked him to a Red Roof Inn or a Holiday Inn or a hotel of sorts, knew exactly who he was and what he was about, and he fled and then pulled over on the side of I-35 somewhere in a drainage ditch or somewhere on a service road, and I guess police tried to approach, and he self-detonates one of his devices and kills himself. I guess we need to outlaw bombs. And how about the nails that were shrapnel inside them? Maybe the boxes they were put in. How about the shipping tape that was put around the said boxes that got them to the destinations for them to explode? Maybe we should, you know what? Maybe we should actually outlaw FedEx. I'm really thinking that's what we should do. I think we should outlaw FedEx. I think we should outlaw packing tape. I think we should outlaw the packing peanuts that go inside of that. I think we should outlaw Red Roof Inn. And we should outlaw anything else that was an accomplice in this, because let's be real, by preventing those institutions from being in place, that packaging tape and those packing peanuts and those boxes that all this was put in, all of these things, and then the subsequent bombs themselves, by outlawing everything that we don't want in society somehow magically helps it not to happen. That is absolutely ridiculous. And I've been saying this since day one. You can't draft new laws and legislation to prevent intent. You cannot pass new legislation and laws to prevent evil intent. Somebody that has dead set intentions on committing crimes, murder, and evil in this world, it has been since the dawn of time. And it will be until the end of time, until our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ comes back to this earth. There will be evil in this world, and no law in the book will prevent it. Bad guys will morph and overcome, and last I checked, a bad guy's not going to basically go, well, I'm a felon, I'm not going to go try to purchase a gun. A bad guy that wants to kill with bombs isn't going to care what the laws are. The laws are you're not supposed to assemble, anything that's explosive. And you're not supposed to mail that. And you're not supposed to lay it at somebody's doorstep for them to pick up and subsequently kill. I think one of these bombs killed an elderly woman. One killed a 17-year-old. I mean, we're yet to know what he was targeting, but it's all evil. It's all evil. What difference does it make? But the left-wing kooks in the mainstream media, they're not out there, ranting and raving about that, and they're darn sure not standing up for what truthfully happened as a true sense of this resource officer being there to save the day on that shooting. Why ain't they there? Where's the same ones that are, you don't want to know why? They're never going to be there when a gun helps save victims of another gun. They're never going to be there because it contradicts their story. If they can't sit there and look the camera in the eye and give accolades and praise to somebody, a good guy with a gun that stopped a bad guy with a gun, they're not going to be there and they're not going to say anything about it. That's exactly why. It goes against their narrative. And as soon as they start to embrace the facts and the truth, it shoots out, it ruins, it literally dissolves that. And so they just go silent. They go rogue, they go silent. And here's another one here. I was actually going to use this on my this is a good one. Yeah. So look at this look at this pic I found, and I guess it's been floating around. This is the first time I saw it yesterday. But read these signs these two individuals have. Gun sellers are accomplices of crimes, and the guy on the right's got a sign that says, "Spoons made me fat." the same type of mindset is relevant there. So yeah, exactly. So I'm sorry, but that spoon and that fork and that knife sitting there and those plates, that's what made me fat. Now, my own action and my own intentions had nothing to do with it. But the left always wants to champion that it's always, it's not the object, that it's not the person's intent, or it's not the person's responsibility, it's the object's intent and the object's responsibility. Last time I checked, a gun has no intent. I'm concealed carrying right now. It's an inert object until I engage it and give it intent for either a good or a bad use, or a non-use. Either way, it's an action. As it sits concealed on me currently, it's an inert object that has to have human interaction and intent behind it before it becomes an affecting object, something that affects something in a positive or a negative way. So, the left is losing this battle with this narrative. But, just wanted to point that out, guys. I'm sure if you are a Second Amendment believer and a protection person of your Second Amendment rights, and you do act upon that, I am sure that you can see that for the hypocrisy that it is. So I don't have to elaborate. So Saccone actually goes ahead and Rick Saccone actually goes ahead and concedes to Connor Lamb here in the PA 18 district special election here that took place within the last couple of weeks. And that was a good thing. I mean, I think the end tally or the end vote was a little over 700 votes that actually divided them. But it was worth kind of slowing up the process there, and it was. I'll still stand on this. I mean, Connor shouldn't have went out. Mr. Lamb shouldn't have went out and gave a victory speech, mere hours after the votes were in, with a really, really tight situation. And I think over the course of the last few days, it was finally confirmed, and and that's fine to do that now. But he didn't. He went out and kind of ranted and raved about it and whatever. I mean, that's history now. But long story short, this election was. I mean, it is relevant, but it is irrelevant at the same time. They're redistricting this area. The maps are going to have been proposed, and they're going to be redone. And in November of this year, when the midterms actually take place, District 18, I believe, it's either abolished or it's totally redrawn to a point where it doesn't even matter that. And Connor won this, but he's going to hold it for a mere few weeks and months, and then has to either rerun and be up against it. And it's looking like Rick Saccone's going to run again, and God bless him, I'll be there to back him too. And another thing to add up is Connor didn't have a primary. Connor didn't have anybody to run against. He didn't have to go up against a handful of other Democratic people in this district. He was basically handed the nomination to then run against Rick Saccone. But the only thing that does worry me a little bit is, and maybe because of the irrelevance of this, is why the polls, just nobody really showed up on the GOP side here. 700 votes, that's really not a lot, and if we'd have really come out in mass, we could have easily got it. I mean, Trump won this area with, I think it was north of 20 points in the general election. So, there is a little bit of pause for concern there, but I don't think there's anything long term to worry about. I think it'll turn and go back the other direction here, hopefully in the midterms, and we'll gain this back, and it'll be just like, told you guys so, no big deal. So, but there was an outcome of this election that kind of hit home. There is a local business. Myself, my family, a lot of my friends and family, we've been patrons of this business for countless years. It's a great place. It's a great staple of this area. Sarah's Candy in Canonsburg, PA. If you've never been there, you ought to go. They've got the best chocolates in the area, best ice cream. I mean, it is great. Okay, let's give a little background here, guys. What happened? So, pictured there on the screen, I was thrilled to find out that Trump Jr. and Saccone actually visited Sarah's factory a couple of days before the election. Trump Jr. was in town and decided to go around with Rick Saccone. So Saris, invited them in, open arms, welcomed them in, took them through the processing to their factory, showed them all of the situations where they produce all of their goodies and all of that stuff, and had them in, and it was a good photo op. So a great thing. It was all over Facebook. It was great. And they even touted it. Sarah's did on their own website. This is a great thing. We're glad to host, Trump Jr., President Trump's son, and Rick Saccone here today to our factory. Okay, nothing. And here's the thing I want to talk to you about. Guys, if this would have been Connor Lamb and Joe Biden, I wouldn't have cared. I'd have been like, well, looky there. And I don't necessarily know if that actually then all of a sudden shows that their political bias. Right? Just because they had Trump Jr. and Saccone come and visit their factory and to pay them a visit doesn't necessarily mean that they're conservative. Now, I'm a little biased, and I'm going to sit here and say it was great to see that over having Connor Lamb and Biden there or somebody, right? Okay, right. I'll go there. I'll concede that. But that doesn't mean anything. So long story short, Sarah's has them in there. It wasn't but a few minutes or hours after this photo, after all this hits their website, hits their Facebook post and their Facebook page, touting this visit, that a lot of their patrons that are on the left side of the aisle came out and pushed back very harshly and said that they thought that this was ill-advised of Sarah's, and that they wouldn't be shopping there anymore to get any ice cream or any chocolates, wouldn't be patronizing their business. You know what? That is so short-sighted and just immature, right, first of all. So that's bad on that surface, but here's what I'm upset about. Within a few hours of these replies back, these Democrats and some of these far left get on there and just butcher Sarah's Candy for hosting President Trump's son and Rick Saccone, and just basically saying it was an honor to have them. That's all they said. They didn't come out and say, we're hardcore conservatives and we're going to vote for Rick Saccone and you know what, go Trump. They didn't go that far. They just were thankful and grateful that they had President Trump's son there, and they went as far to basically say that it was an honor to have them. Well, you would have thought the world had a meltdown. You would have thought that it was the end of the earth. Seriously. So the left pushes back, and here's the other thing. Sarah's Candy's they're in the business of selling goods and services here. They're in the business of selling goodies and chocolates and ice cream, and their store is about having people there, fellowship and friends and family, and it's that kind of an atmosphere. Well, as soon as they got this pushback, instead of just basically standing up for their right and their choice to make the decision they made of having President Trump's son and Rick Saccone in their place of business, and just leaving it at that, and letting the chips fall, maybe letting the negative chips fall where they may, let any of the left, any of the hardcore people that pushed back and berated and belittled them, just let it go, and just let it go. They didn't do that. Unfortunately, within a few hours of that happening, they issue an official apology and put it back on their page. So imagine this. One day they're proud of having President Trump's son and Saccone there, and they get some pushback, and the next day they've got an official apology posted on their Facebook page that is all but a sellout. It basically goes on, and it's too small for me to read, but it goes on to say and paraphrase that that they apologize for any inconvenience that this political decision made to any of their patrons, and that they will in the future be more in tune to the political sensitivities of all of those involved. And when I read that, I was furious, because one, they're a great business, and they had every right to be and have President Trump's son and Rick Saccone. There was nothing to apologize for. If one thing infuriates me as a conservative and on principle alone, if you don't have a reason to apologize and you've truly not offended somebody, then you do not need to be in the business of apologizing. That is the first way you can personally turn my stomach and turn me away from you as a business or as a person, because you either believe in what you do or you don't. And if you did something that was actually wrong, okay, then come out and state that. But there was nothing wrong here. What they ended up doing, what Sarah's has ended up doing, is now they are playing politics. You were just fine to come out and welcome them into your facility and then let the chips fall where they may. But if you're going to initiate an apology based on nothing other than your free right to have two people into your building, then you know what? You turn me off. And Kelly writes, I'm tired of the apologizing to the left. This makes me so mad. Absolutely. I'm with you, Kelly. It's ridiculous. And need I say who embodies the apologies? that had 8 years in that Oval Office and all but ruined this country. The apologist in chief, Barack Hussein Obama, going around the whole world apologizing, bowing down, apologizing, being regretful to other leaders around the world, being regretful and apologetic to his own citizens here, being on the wrong side of things, prejudging things, being a judge and a jury and an executioner before facts have ever came out. I could go on, right? So we took a huge step back in light of the world's response to the way they feel about us as the premier world superpower in this country, and we took a step back internally in race relations. Barack Hussein Obama will go down as, if not the worst, by far the top 2 or 3 worst presidents of this country's history. So back to the apologies. Saris, I'll give you a pass. I'll go buy ice cream there tomorrow if I need to. If I'm by there, I'm not going to abandon their business. I'm not going to pull that, because to me that makes me no different than the left that came out pushing against them and saying they're going to boycott Saris. Well, they're idiots. If I want a good sundae and I want some good chocolates, I'm still going to go patronize their business. And I'm actually going to apply something else here that the left never does, and that's grace. They did something that offended me. It's not necessarily sinful, but it's something that offended me and upset me. God's word calls us to be graceful and merciful. Such has been the same, Christ extending his grace to us through shedding of his blood. We're supposed to do the same. So, it does infuriate me. I'm still upset about it, and I need to let it go. But it just doesn't do anybody any good. It would have been a great moment for Saris to stand up and just say, hey, we fully stand behind our choice to have President Trump's son and Rick Saccone in our facility, and we have no apologies for that. That would have been amazing. Or just don't even acknowledge it to begin with. Just ignore the left and the pushback from some of their far-left patrons. So either way. So there is, we just touched base on the PA-18 election. Saccone went ahead and conceded to Connor Lamb. That's basically it's a non-issue, guys. It's going to be recontested in a matter of weeks and months in the midterms. We just need to galvanize. We need to come out in force for Rick Saccone. He needs to do a little bit better job. He had some great volunteers. I met a bunch of them. These guys are hardcore workers. They go out, they put boots to the ground, they knock on doors, they engage with you personally. Michael Guido and Sam Bambraw, great guys. That was just a handful of the volunteers that they've got on their team. So I'm sure that they'll have a better shot. They'll reassess, re-engage, and go back out and do a better job. And hopefully we'll have a bigger turnout for the midterms. So, how about Trump congratulates Putin? I didn't pull anything up for this, but the left has had a meltdown about that. Right? Trump calls Putin and congratulated him on his what is now basically all but known fraudulent victory. It was a fraudulent victory. There was ballot stuffing. There was corruption on all sides. Putin didn't win anything. He took it. So I am, was it a great idea for him to call President Putin and congratulate him on basically what is a fraudulent victory in an election? Not necessarily, but once again, Trump is not the consummate politician. And once again, why are we shocked? And what is the end game here? And Trump's tweeted since, and his end game is this. Isn't it better to have kind of Russia on a short leash? Isn't it better to I forget what the saying is, keep your friends close and your enemies closer? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with not appeasing somebody? And it's not appeasing to say that. And everybody's like, well, why is he kissing Putin's butt? Well, he's not kissing Putin's butt. He's keeping his enemies on a shorter leash because we need them. We actually do need Russia in some capacity for our foreign situations. In Syria, North Korea, the Iran deal, Ukraine, in Crimea. I'm not saying that Trump shouldn't always lead with an iron fist, and he does when it counts, but there's nothing wrong with extending a phone call to the Russian leader and saying something like that. So, once again, we can debate whether or not he should have called him. That's yet to be determined. I don't really care. It's going to play into a bigger picture, guys. So, hey, welcome to the Truth Hour radio program. If you're hitting my page, I'm kind of late doing a plug here. You're on the Truth Hour radio program. I come to you live every Thursday morning here in Pittsburgh, PA, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for being on. Do me a huge favor. If you find some relevance here, if you find something you like and would like to spread to your friends and family, please share this page now. Click the share button. Write a small passage up there. Give me a plug. I would much appreciate it. I'm trying to grow my base. Formerly of YouTube, we was doing only on YouTube, and now we're exclusively on Facebook Live as my platform. It just made more sense to do this. So, welcome to you. This is a political insight show. Have a true passion for faith and faith and politics, both. So this is a political insight show for the week's political situations, and I like to carve out a portion of my time to do a small faith segment as well, to champion my faith in Christ and to help you in that pursuit as well. So, we have a number of other things to talk about here. So we got a far-leaning. He is a Democrat all through and through. His name is Alan Dershowitz. I don't know if I've got a screenshot of him, but Alan Dershowitz is a Harvard Law professor. He is a frequent visitor of Fox and Friends. He was on Sean Hannity last night, and guys, he is as left as they come, but he is straight down the rule of law as they come. And Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard Law professor, says that the Robert Mueller probe in this special counsel investigation into Russian collusion as it pertains to Trump and any of the campaign needs to be disbanded, needs to be disbarred, needs to be dismissed. It needs to be dissolved. It's fraudulent. It's wrought with salacious hearsay and garbage and lies, and it needs to be dissolved. This is a gentleman that is, like I said, he's on the left side of the aisle, and he is saying that he is saying that it needs to be over. And here's the other key point. He is saying that it never should have begun. This was all based on fraudulent warrants that were given because of surveillance that never should have happened, and surveillance because of warrants that never should have happened. A dossier that was doctored up into an intelligence document that was made to look like something that it wasn't. He's saying that all of this is fruit of a poisonous tree, and because of that, everything that's happened since should have been and should be revisited and disbanded, including the the guilty pleas and all the convictions and the indictments by Mueller, the Papadopoulos plea and indictment, Manafort's plea and indictment, Flynn's plea and indictment, of which I believe Flynn fell on the sword. Flynn fell on the sword to take one for his family because he saw no other way out. He's as we speak, mortgaging his house because he had to pay for these high-powered attorneys to fight against the U.S. government and the FBI agents that are out to basically see him ruined. So, and then because of that interview where he supposedly lied, but then come to find out all the investigating FBI agents stated that they didn't believe he lied. Why then would he actually plea out and say that he lied and misled the FBI? I'll tell you why. Because that's his only recourse. That's how horrible, guys, this corrupt situation is with Mueller and this fraudulent investigation that has become an extension of the Obama administration, the Clinton Foundation, and the DNC. Guys, it's one big corruption pile. It all is attached hip and hip, and it all fits together. And as time goes on, the left's attempt to undermine this presidency isn't just to undermine this presidency. The Obama administration, the higher echelons of the FBI and the DOJs, the real intent by undermining this president to make sure he either didn't get elected prior to because of the dossier and all the other salacious junk they put against him wasn't just to get him either not elected and then if he got elected to get him, kicked out as soon as possible, impeached. It was more to protect the Obama legacy and all of the corruption that transcends the Obama years, that also goes back into countless administrations for countless years, guys, which has become the corrupt DOJ and the corrupt FBI. Guys, if you want to be somewhere in the higher echelons of the FBI, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that's what this investigation, this counter-investigation into all this corruption has proven. The biggest boomerang in the history of this country is coming back, and it's taken out a bunch of these corrupt politicians and these career agents as it does come back. And the left threw this boomerang. As soon as Trump says, swore into office, they threw this boomerang. They're like, yep, we're taking him out. Here goes all this salacious information. Here goes this dossier. Here comes all these allegations that are that aren't proven. And it went out and it started uncovering all this other information on the left, and they don't know what to do about it. It's too late. It's too late. It's too late. All of this is coming out, and there's nothing they can do about it. And guys, let's go back and think about this. Doesn't there have to be a crime in place for there to be an investigation? To this day, there's never been a crime revealed. There has never been a actual, tangible, provable crime that has ever been proven or brought forth as any evidence to even justify this ongoing investigation. So, a special counsel was appointed, an investigation requiring dozens of agents and millions of your dollars and mine has went in to enforce an investigation into a sitting United States president based on nothing, based on nada, zilch. They have an investigation without a crime when they're sitting there staring at a ton of crimes with a ton of mountainous of evidence of pointing to said crimes, with collusion with the Hillary campaign, with corruption within the hierarchy of the higher echelons of the FBI and the DOJ, with tons of evidence and crimes pointing to Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch and Barack Hussein Obama. They're sitting on a mountain of evidence for that, but yet crickets are chirping on the left. But they have one of the biggest witch hunts underway with the biggest budget since I don't know when, in a special counsel in Robert Mueller, of which all of his high-paying prosecutors and other agents are all Democratic donors. You tell me that's not as biased as it can get. Right? Welcome, Loretta. Looks like my daughter Cheyenne might be on. Give me a shout out there. Thomas Clements is on. He actually says, but it is employment security for so many attorneys. Well, yeah, absolutely. Job security. Unfortunately, if you're an attorney in this country, far too often you're considered to be a part of that. That cesspool. And I know there's good attorneys out there that do good work every day, but unfortunately, that's what you're left with. But if you want to give me a shout out, guys, and thanks for being on the Truth Hour. We're 3/4 of the way through this show today, and once again, I rambled on, and about 3/4 of my agenda did not even get discussed, but we'll keep going. Yeah, so we could talk on that for forever and ever. But guys, that's still coming out, and we'll continue to bring you relevance every week as that unravels. How about California first becoming the first sanctuary state, having the first AG in history to come out and say they're going to prosecute their own citizens of their state if they try to help ICE agents enforce current federal immigration law. If that ain't bad enough, they got the Oakland mayor coming out within the last 2 weeks, tooting the horn and giving the heads up to all the illegals that the ICE agents were fixing to come through and do a major area sweep. And then now you got this. This picture top right is a picture dead center of that Mexican flag. Flag of Mexico is a young lady that has been appointed to a state federal position. She is not a citizen of this country. She is an illegal immigrant. She is a criminal. And she is now sitting in a appointed government position for no reason. She has been given this position. She has no right to vote in this country, yet she is given a state federal position, a state government position. That ought to make you furiated. So not only is, states like Illinois, it's Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, printing these identification cards for any illegal to come out. Now all you got to do is have some kind of proof of residence. You make it all the way to Chicago and you find yourself in Illinois and inside the borders of Chicago, all you got to do is prove you've got a residence somewhere in one of these ID cards that Rahm Emanuel's printed up, and you can vote in any election in this country. You go to California, you make it across. It doesn't matter how you make it across, what you did to get across. You're an illegal alien. You're an illegal person in this country that has no rights. You're not afforded due process. You're not afforded the Constitution. The Constitution does not apply to you. You're not a U.S. citizen. And yet they're appointing illegal aliens to positions of government control, giving these people rights that are not extended to them. It is an absolute joke. It is an absolute atrocity what this country is coming to. These are how civil wars were started, when states ignored federal law and tried to trump federal law. Go back and read your history books. Read the right history books. The Civil War was started over similar stuff as what we're facing in California, guys. We have a rogue state that's basically turned their nose up at federal law at every stage of the process. They have decided that what they think is better. They are drafting their own laws to circumvent and to prevent current federal law on every corner of the spectrum. And if you decide to stand up, and here's another part, there is a small city in California that is defying the odds. They are going against what the state is deeming as lawful, and they are standing up for what is lawful as it pertains to federal immigration law. I don't have the name of the city in front of me. I forgot to do my research and bring this up. They are currently standing up against the state of California, and they are saying that federal law trumps what the state of California is trying to force them to do as a city. And God bless them for that. I will pull this up and have it for you next week. But this city is stepping up and saying that it will not be bullied in to being a part of what is this atrocity of California's implemented laws, that they will instead take the side of the U.S. government. And like I said earlier, the current California AG has stated that he will personally prosecute and hold legally liable for anybody that helps any ICE agents detain and deport any illegal in that state. Outside, with the exception of being handed a warrant from ICE. If you're handed a warrant from ICE, all of a sudden you get a free pass. But if ICE knocks on your door and you're a business or you have privileged information that could lead to the detention and the deportation of illegals, and you comply outside of a warrant handed to you, you could go to jail and you could face steep penalties because of that. California is off the charts and off the rails. And you know what? God bless Jeff Sessions for suing the state for this very reason. Let's go back and look real quick, briefly, at the hypocrisy that was. Look at under the Obama administration. You didn't have the Attorney General suing the state for trying to protect themselves. No. Well, I'll take that back. What you have here is you have an Attorney General in Jeff Sessions suing the state of California because it's turning its nose up at current federal law and current federal immigration that is there to protect our citizens. Go back in time 4 or 5 years. It might have been 4 or 5. I can't remember exactly when. Do you know that Eric Holder, Department of Justice, did you know the State Department, did you know they sued the state of Arizona because they got tired of the federal government not stepping up and protecting their borders and helping them enforce their current on-the-books federal immigration law? So do you know what Arizona did? They basically started their own service, like the Minutemen back in the day. And they armed their own border. And guess who sued them for it? Our own government sued them for standing up for current law. I want you to stop and think about that. Obama's Eric Holder sued the state of Arizona because they decided to stand guard on their own border through their own process to protect their own citizens because the current laws on the books were not being enforced, and Eric Holder and his cohorts were basically turning a blind eye to federal immigration law and allowing that state to be vulnerable to incoming illegals, not only to being, shot and murdered, but all the other subsequent downfall of crimes that happen after you basically dissolve a border. Right? So they stand up and they do the Minutemen, the militia, and they go down and they have volunteers to voluntarily sit on these ranches and on these farms and on these borders of this state to make sure these drug mules wasn't coming across and these illegal aliens wasn't coming across and these human traffickers weren't coming across on their watch. And guess who sued them because they were standing up for what was right? Eric Holder did. Yeah, that's the guy. And you have just the opposite here. You got a full state that's going against the federal government. And now you got an attorney general that actually has a spine and is using the current federal immigration law, and we're trying to protect the citizens, the actual citizens of California, and the state's giving us the middle finger. They are giving more rights to illegals that have no rights than the current citizens that do. Stop and think about that. Stop and think about that. Get hot and heavy on that stuff, guys. Got to work with me. You're on the Truth Hour radio program. Thanks for being on. We are at the conclusion of this. We have 5 minutes. I'm going to do a quick faith segment, but you've been on the Truth Hour radio program, guys. You find any relevance here, message me on my chat bar. Facebook message me privately. My phone number's on there. Contact me personally. You can also email me discreetly at truthhourradio@gmail.com. Thanks for being on today. Please like and share this. I'm trying to grow my base. This is a conservative, basically, podcast with political insight on the week's political hot topics, along with a faith section. Some weeks are a little bit bigger than others. I did a pretty good one last week. It looks like I'm not going to have much time for this one because I got hot-winded and long-winded on this one. But I had a lot of stuff that had me going. So here's my faith/comedy segment. This gentleman is... Dadgummit, I'm going to have the research on this, but this is hilarious. Watch this for a couple of 3 minutes. This guy got a spanking for leading Amazing Grace in church. Listen to the whole story. You're going to find out why.
Because I told you my dad was a minister of music. Do you know that one time my dad asked me, I was like 7 years old, and my dad asked me to sing Amazing Grace in front of the whole congregation. And I did it, and I got a spanking for it. I bet you'd like to hear that story, wouldn't you? Because, see, I remember getting asked to do it, but 7 years old, I had heard that song so much, and I didn't really know what it meant, but it was boring to me because it was just over and over. They'd sing it every week. And so when my dad said, would you do Amazing Grace in front of the congregation? I knew the words, but I was kind of bored with the tune. And so, but when he got me up there, I was up there, and right before I sang, I remembered that I had noticed the words to Amazing Grace would fit perfectly into my mother's favorite song, which was Ghost Riders in the Sky. So I said, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. And within their 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Praise the Lord, let's hear it for Jesus, the Holy Ghost Rider in the sky. And so, you know how how you're laughing right now. The congregation did that too. But my daddy wasn't laughing. And he kind of went over to me and he leaned down and he said, that wasn't what I was expecting. So try it again. And I thought, ooh. Well, I had also noticed that the words to Amazing Grace would fit perfectly into the music of a song that I heard my grandfather play on his record player behind the barn. I didn't really know what the song was about, but it was called House of the Rising Sun. And I also I thought at that moment, my mom likes Elvis, so I thought I'd throw a little of that in there too. And when my dad backed away, I said, Amazing Grace, How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. And when my dad took a step toward me, I took a step back and I said, thank you very much.
Yeah, guys, so this is hilarious. I'm going to cut this a little bit short. Hate to do it on you. There was about another minute and a half. That was absolutely hilarious. I found that this morning. I was going to send that and put that on the Truth Hour. So I hope you were getting a good kick out of that as well, you know. That reminds me when I was in church service when I was a youngster. All the antics and shenanigans we used to pull. But yeah, funny stuff. Oh, and one other part on the faith segment. Did anybody watch the I Can Only Imagine movie? That I Can Only Imagine. Yeah, that was an amazing. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. Fixing to go see it. Me and the family are going to go watch it here in the next day or two. Hope you can get to go see it. Guys, huge turnout, huge debut. I don't know if you saw the number. $17.1 million on its first weekend. Amazing. So, guys, I would encourage you to go see that. It's a great family movie from all what I can see on the reviews. Based on a true story. About how that song basically came to fruition through the song leader and songwriter's life, and how his father struggled with issues and was a very angry and berated person that turned his life over to God, and God turned his life around. And before, I believe before his father ended up subsequently dying of cancer, was just a huge turnaround in him and his son. Just had a great relationship. So very inspiring, very motivating, guys. I heard it'll make you cry. I heard it'll make you laugh. A lot of joy, a lot of faith there, guys. Go see that movie. So we kind of got through a little bit of everything, but we really didn't. Once again, one of the worst times of my week is 12 o'clock on a Thursday, because it is the end of another show on the Truth Hour radio program. I love doing this. I love bringing you guys political relevance every week. Thank you again for being on. I will keep you and yours in my prayer. If you have any issues, anything you'd like me to pray for you about, or any topic concerns or any suggestions, please either Facebook message me. You can put it on the chat bar. You can personally text me. You can also email me at truthourradio@gmail.com. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being on. And if I did not mention your name, please forgive me. And if I did, hey, awesome. You just got to stand out this week. So we will see you guys in a week. I will be doing my research, bringing you a whole nother week of jam-packed political information and another portion involved in my faith and my walk with Christ. I would encourage each and every one of you to follow up on that. Try to get closer to having a relationship with Christ. If you're not there, I'm going to keep dripping every week with you. Ask me what that means. Ask me the details. I will help you get there. My best friend will help you get there. I appreciate you guys, and there's nothing more important than a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Everything else pales in comparison, guys. So, in fact, I can't do anything without Christ. Anything. And I would hope that you would get to a point in your life where you could acknowledge that too. It's a true revelation in your life, a true experience that will basically free you from the bondage of this world and help you see exactly whom you should be dependent on. So, anyways, got to get out of here. Love you guys. Hope to see you next week on another jam-packed session of the Truth Hour. We will see you down the road.
Something really wrong is going on.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on?